want your first gen Tacoma or third gen 4Runner to sound like this, stay tuned. Yeah! I've had a lot of questions about this right here. This is a 2002 Tacoma, one of the OGs. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about this build, just parts. We're going to talk about ECUs, wiring. We'll just get right into it. Okay, this build is a 2002 Toyota Tacoma, extended cab, manual transmission, four-wheel drive. This 5VZ engine has about 140,000 miles on it. I pulled it out to do the head gaskets, and it just makes it a lot easier when you're doing exhaust manifolds and head gaskets and everything. So motor came out of the truck, and I can supply some pictures that I will insert to show during the head gaskets and everything. Factory engine, the only internal difference is Molly MLS head gaskets and ARP head studs. And those were supplied from LC Engineering. And it's a whole head gasket kit. It comes with the MLS gaskets, and then you can add on the head studs. As far as I understand, LC Engineering is the only company that actually makes a 5VZ ARP head stud kit. Two of the studs are actually a little bit shorter, just for enough clearance for the cam gears inside of there. So head gaskets, cleaned everything up, inspected everything, new timing belt, water pump, other modifications, injectors, 550 injectors. We did IK22 spark plugs, a CX Racing turbo kit. The exhaust manifold, a lot of people complain that do these builds on these 5VZs that the exhaust manifolds on these have fitment issues. When I had this motor out of the truck and I was installing the manifolds and the crossover pipe, I didn't really see any fitment issues. It seemed to fit right up, and there's also a flex pipe in the back of it. One thing I wish I had done before I had put this back in is I wish I had put a little bit more heat shield or some type of an insulating barrier on the firewall from that, and then I wish I had put some header wrap on the crossover pipe. So that's one thing I wish I would have done different. The turbo is a Pulsar 3576 Gen 2 dual ball bearing with a T51R mod. T51R mod is basically a mill out in the housing. Just makes it whistle. The cold side is CX Racing kit. I did modify the piping. The turbocharger has a different output size, going from this is a 2.5 inch charge pipe setup, and intercooler. I had to do a little bit of modification because I wanted to retain the ARB bumper, so I did have to trim a little bit on the ARB bumper to make this fit and make my own tabs to hold the intercooler up. So I had to also modify the charge piping. This kit is designed to come down, and on the factory bumpers it's actually supposed to sit down here. I'm going to back up for a second. We're going to talk about wastegate and blow-off valve. This blow-off valve is the one that comes with the CX Racing kit. It's a Gretty knockoff. It didn't have this little flange. I bought this for, I can't remember, $15, $20 on Amazon. It's a little aluminum screw-in piece that goes on the end of it. And I scrubbed this down and painted it with some good black paint because they're an obnoxious pink and purple, and I think my customer would enjoy it very much. The wastegate is actually the supplied wastegate that they give you with the CX Racing Turbo kit. The CX Racing Turbo is a Chinese piece of garbage that you don't want to run.
China. You want to buy from China? That's great. Buy from China.
And before you start making comments that Pulsar is a Chinese turbo, yes, but it has way more quality standards than any of those other knockoffs. So the one it comes with is a GT35, has no quality control, and you want to be able to have reliable power. Go with something that has a little bit more reliability, and Pulsar has made a great reputation for themselves. Okay, this has the mass airflow sensor in it. It's not using it. So back here, I just grabbed a Amazon oil catch can, vented. I ran the PCV valve line, just a direct from that valve cover straight over to the catch can, and same with this one. This is has a little bit thicker of a hose to go to this other valve cover. So I just ran those straight into here just to grab the oil.
2,000 years later.
All right, we went over oil catch can, straight to valve covers, vent to atmosphere. I was actually kind of impressed by these little Amazon catch cans. I mean, it's nice, solid aluminum. Came with a bunch of different inlet fittings. I mean, hey, look at this. It even gives you a little dipstick to check see how much oil you've caught in there. All right, blow-off valve is routed into this port. The idle air control I left essentially in the same spot. All I did was add a T, and this is my boost reference that runs down, and it eventually travels into this wire loom right here and goes down into the firewall inside. It then goes into another T where it goes to a boost gauge, and then it also runs for the map on the Fuel Tech 550. Fuel pressure regulator I left in the same location. It runs back onto this same line, and I tied it right back into where the PCV would normally go in. Last thing on vacuum lines, purge valves and all of that junk. Well, it's all there. They're still plugged in, except for it vents to atmosphere. No big deal. Let it vent.
Sir, if you have a complaint, I suggest you submit it through our email system.
We can talk a little bit about wiring for a second, and then we can talk about powertrain, your drivetrain here in a second. So wiring, factory harness. I did no cutting of this harness at all. Zero cutting. And I'll show you how and why, being able to go to a standalone, how I did that. This is a customer's truck, and it had heaps and heaps of relays and just wadded up wiring those over in this corner. I've used Oxbeam on a couple of different builds, and I've been absolutely impressed with Oxbeam. They give you plenty of connections. It's all fused. It is wonderful. And it even has a circuit breaker. Again, if you're going to be running multiple accessories, I can't highly recommend it enough. It is absolutely impressive. You can use it as a start button, fuel pump, turn on. You can use it full race car setup if you needed to. This is only here for accessory lighting. That is all this Oxbeam kit is doing here. It was simply just a wire cleanup, and yeah, that's it. All right, we'll talk about the rest of the wiring. So we have this Mac valve boost controller. I did relocate the igniter. It normally sits over here. All I did was split this harness open a little bit just to move the mass airflow sensor and the igniter away. They're on the same loom, and they have plenty of separation after you take them apart. So in the interior, this is a Fuel Tech 550, is running everything. So how I was able to retain factory harness, bear with me, was pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You can't really see it right now, but it has a boom slang harness. It's an adapter harness that goes directly from the factory ECU plugs. So all of the factory ECU plug-ins go straight into that connector, just like it was an ECU. And then it runs down and ties in. Here's the wire loom for it right there. There's my boost reference. And it goes directly into a plug-in for the Fuel Tech. The only thing I had to do on this harness was pin in one of the factory Fuel Tech wires into a spot where we could control the boost controller. That's literally the only wire I had to add, and it all functions. So key on, it kicks on that Fuel Tech, and I put the wideband nano from Fuel Tech. I just trimmed this out a little bit and hot glued it into this little section here. Super clean little setup for it. You can read your AFRs really good. Klein didn't want anything blocking his view. He wanted this to kind of be somewhat of a sleeper build. This wire is the USB. I unplugged from the back. I was plugged into it, adjusting some boost levels.
Hackerman.
Currently this truck I have set at 12.5 PSI max, and it runs really, really strong. I mean, it's really a killer setup. Make sure this thing's in neutral, and I'll start it up. Factory AC works just as normal. Everything works. Everything in this truck works. Taking off stoplights or anything, there's no difference. It's a factory engine. And just until you start getting into higher RPMs, that's when you wide open throttle, you have all the boost, it's rowdy, it makes all the fun noises.
Nice.
It is fantastic, but after this, it feels modern. I mean, it feels equivalent and a little bit more power than, I mean, even my GMC truck with a V8. You can get up and get around cars. It runs smooth. This might seem like a lot, and kind of is, but overall, it really is not an overcomplicated build. There's the aux beam panel. This is where I mounted it up here, and it just has a little wire, one little wire. That's all it is for all of the lighting. We still got to talk about drivetrain. So this truck, I knew we weren't going to be running factory power. So transmission out. All right, I'll try to answer a few questions that some people had. So this is an LC clutch, and this is their like street performer, kind of the middle between their high performance and their low performance on the 5EZ. They say it's like 350 wheel horse that it can hold fine, but we'll see, because I'm going to be pushing a little more than that. And then I also did the heavier billet flywheel. It is significantly heavier than the factory one down there. Gear shifts, it feels way smoother. It feels a lot better than a factory R150F downpipe. This is CX Racing downpipe, and then it comes in again CX Racing, and they do give you factory O2 sensors. I'm not using them, but they are in there. It's reduced modification as much as possible. And here is the wastegate tube. It is wide open. It's fun when you get a little bit of choo-choo, but when you're high RPM and it starts bleeding that boost off, oh, it's loud and obnoxious. Right now, this exhaust is just a hodgepodge of stuff to stick together that we had laying around. The factory cat was completely stopped up. We put the turbo on it, it blew its guts out of the tailpipe. Got too much restriction, so we're gonna open this up and leave it a 3-inch as far back as we can go. Factory drive shaft, it snapped. On a hard launch, we snapped this U-joint and they both snapped at the same time. The rear diff actually split a couple teeth on another hard launch.
No, it's been a long fight. It's been a long fight, and I just had to have a warrior spirit, and that's all. So I'm just
having to replace the ring gear, so it's 410 gears in this truck. Even at this power level, it is pretty extensive. Now this truck is also running 33s. We put these really cheap track bars on this thing, and I'm not convinced of them yet. They're there. It's better than having a bunch of axle wrap. That'll pretty much do it. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Appreciate you. Have at it. Hang loose.